The cockpit shattered around me like 1,000 brittle promises, shards of glass slicing through the humid Spanish air as the jet spiraled toward the jagged cliffs of Rhoda's coastline. Olivia's voice crackled over the radio one last time. "Catherine, if I don't make it, know that you were my sky." Before static swallowed her whole, leaving me clutching the console in the dim glow of the research bunker, my heart a freefall without a parachute. In that frozen instant, as alarms wailed and the bass sirens pierced the twilight, I realized the truth we'd both buried. Our love wasn't built for survival, it was forged in the fire of secrets that would burn us both. I never meant to fall for the legend. The United States Naval Academy's outpost in Rota, Spain, was supposed to be my fresh start. A place where an Omega like me could bury the scars of my small-town Kentucky upbringing under layers of data and discretion. At 24, with my auburn waves perpetually tied back in a practical ponytail and my freckled cheeks hidden behind wire-rimmed glasses, I blended into the background like fog over the Atlantic. Omegas weren't rare in the ranks, but we were the quiet ones. The analysts, the support staff, the ones who dreamed in equations rather than dogfights. My days blurred into nights poring over flight telemetry in the underground labs, mapping wind shears and radar ghosts for pilots who treated the skies like their personal canvas. Olivia Ruiz was the opposite, a storm in human form. At 26, she was the Academy's undisputed ace, a Puerto Rican firebrand with olive skin that glowed under the Andalusian sun, sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, and dark eyes that held the ferocity of a hawk mid-dive. Her hair was cropped short, practical for the helmet, but it framed her face like a warrior's crown. She flew F/A-18 Hornets like they were extensions of her soul, racking up kills in joint NATO exercises that made headlines back in DC. Whispers followed her through the base. The girl from San Juan who'd lost her brother to a cartel hit at 16, channeling that rage into the cockpit. She was alpha through and through, not just in the old-school hierarchy sense, where Omegas like me deferred in meetings, but in every fiber of her being. Commanding, unyielding, untouchable. Our worlds collided on a sweltering July afternoon in the year we both turned legends in our own quiet ways. I'd been assigned to her squadron's R&D team, tasked with optimizing sensor arrays for low-altitude runs over the Strait of Gibraltar. The lab was a concrete womb buried beneath the naval station, humming with servers and the faint salt tang seeping through vents. I was elbow-deep in code when the door banged open, and there she was, Olivia, still in her flight suit, sweat slicked and radiating heat like she'd brought the sun inside. "Trainee," she barked, her voice a low rumble with that faint Caribbean lilt cutting through the Spanish vowels. "You the one tweaking my bird's eyes?" I glanced up, heart stuttering like a faulty engine. Up close, she was even more arresting. A faint scar tracing her jawline from some forgotten skirmish, lips pressed into a line that could be a smile or a snarl. "Yes, ma'am. Catherine Hale. I'm calibrating the infrared for better ghosting in fog banks." She leaned over my shoulder, close enough that I caught the scent of jet fuel and citrus. Her shampoo, maybe. Ghosting. Cute term. Make it sing, Hale. I don't pull GS for mediocrity. That was it. Our first exchange. Clipped, professional, the kind of alpha-omega dance we'd all learned in orientation. But as she straightened, her fingers brushed the back of my chair. Just a graze, accidental, and something electric hummed in the air between us. I told myself it was static from the equipment. Lies we tell ourselves in places like Rhoda, where the base's isolation bred secrets like vines on the cliffs. Weeks blurred into a rhythm. Olivia's squadron ran drills at dawn, tearing through the skies while I watched from the observation deck. A thermos of black coffee my only companion. She dropped by the lab unannounced, helmet under one arm, demanding updates with that half-grin that made my pulse skip. "Show me the Sims, Omega," she'd say, the word laced with teasing affection rather than the usual condescension. I'd pull up the holograms, our heads bent close over the projections, her breath warm on my neck as she pointed out flaws only a pilot's instinct could spot. One evening after a grueling sim where her virtual jet had crashed, due to a glitch in my code, she didn't leave. The lab emptied, the base settling into that eerie quiet where the distant crash of waves was the only soundtrack. I was debugging, fingers flying over keys, when her hand covered mine, firm, callous from the stick. "Enough," she murmured. "You're killing yourself over pixels." I froze, heat flooding my cheeks. Omegas weren't supposed to blush. We were the steady ones. It's my job, Lieutenant Ruiz. Olivia. Her thumb traced a circle on my knuckle, eyes locking on mine with an intensity that pinned me like a spotlight. And it's bullshit. You fixed it mid-flight in your head. I saw the logs. You're brilliant, Catherine. Why hide it? No one had ever called me brilliant. Back home, I'd been the sensitive girl, the Omega who fainted at cotillion dances, shipped off to the academy on a scholarship to toughen up. Here, under Olivia's gaze, I felt seen, raw, exposed, alive. Because alphas like you don't need distractions, I whispered, the words tumbling out before I could cage them. Her laugh was soft, disarming. Who says you're a distraction? She leaned in, forehead resting against mine. And in that shared breath, the world narrowed to the space between us. Her lips brushed my temple. Not a kiss, not yet, but a promise. I've been watching you two. The way you bite your lip when the data fights back. It's distracting. We didn't cross the line that night. Not with the cameras in the corners, the unspoken rules of the service hanging like storm clouds. But from then on, stolen moments became our currency. A shared glance across the mess hall, her fingers lingering on a briefing folder as she passed it to me, late-night texts about nothing, paella recipes from her abuela, my favorite Dylan Thomas poems. Rhoda's beauty conspired with us. Moonlit walks along the pine-shaded paths to the beach, where we'd sit on the sand, toes in the foam, talking until the stars blurred. You're not like the others, she confessed one night, her head on my lap as waves lapped at our feet. The air smelled of salt and wild rosemary, the base's lights twinkling like fallen constellations behind us. Most Omegas here. They play the part. Submissive smiles, averted eyes. But you? You challenge me. In the lab in my head. Dios, Catherine, you make me want to be better. I threaded my fingers through her hair, heart swelling with the tenderness I'd only read about in dog-eared novels smuggled from the base library. And you make me brave. Like I could fly if I tried. She tilted her head up, eyes shimmering. You already do. Every day. Our first real kiss came under a blood-orange sunset, after a flawless sortie where her jet danced through my optimized arrays like silk through scissors. We were in the hangar, the massive doors open to the sea breeze, her hornet looming like a guardian. She pulled me behind a stack of crates, hands framing my face, and kissed me slow, deep like savoring aged rum. It tasted of adrenaline and longing, her alpha strength tempered with a gentleness that undid me. I melted into her, hands fisting her flight jacket, the world fading to the rhythm of our breaths. I love you, she whispered against my lips, the words a vow etched in the salt air. I love you too, I breathed back. And in that moment, Rhoda wasn't an outpost, it was our universe. But love in the shadows is a fragile thing. The Academy's hierarchy loomed like the Rock of Gibraltar. Alphas led, Omegas supported, and anything blurring those lines was a court-martial waiting to happen. We were careful. Notes slipped into lockers, study sessions in the lab that ended with flushed cheeks and rumpled clothes. Yet whispers started. A mechanic spotting us too close in the hangar. A rival pilot, jealous of Olivia's favoritism, piecing together late-night calls. Enter Lieutenant Marcus Hale. No relation, thank God, but the irony stung. A broad-shouldered alpha from Texas, with a drawl like molasses and ambitions sharper than his sidearm. He'd been circling Olivia since her transfer, seeing her as the key to his command dreams. Marry the ace, climb the ranks. When he cornered me in the commissary one afternoon, his smile was all teeth. Trainee Hale, he drawled, blocking my tray of tapas. Heard you're tight with Ruiz. Word of advice. Stick to your screens. Alphas like her need equals, not sidekicks. The word landed like a slap. I straightened, channeling every ounce of the fire Olivia saw in me. With respect, sir, my work keeps her alive. Maybe focus on your own flights before critiquing mine. He chuckled, but his eyes narrowed, predatory. Feisty. Cute. But watch yourself, Omega. This base eats dreamers. I told Olivia that night, curled in her bunk during a rare overlap of shifts, the room lit only by the glow of her tablet. She held me fierce, jaw clenched. He's nothing. A relic. We're building something real here, mi cielo. But Marcus wasn't done. He started small. Rerouting my supply requests, questioning my SIM data and briefings. Olivia defended me publicly, her voice thunder in the ready room. Hale's arrays saved my ass last week, show some respect. But it only fueled the rumors. Ruiz's pet project, they called me. Worse, her little Omega fling. The crack widened during the annual NATO War Games. Olivia's squadron was lead strike, my tech the backbone. We prepped for weeks, her confidence infectious as we huddled over maps in the war room, our knees brushing under the table. This is it, she said, tracing the flight path with her finger, ours intertwined like our lives. After this, I'll put in for that exchange program in DC. We can go public there. Start fresh. My heart soared. Together. Always. The op launched at midnight, jets screaming into the starless sky. I monitored from the bunker, screens alive with pings, Olivia's bird at point, a green blip slicing through simulated defenses. Then glitch. A phantom echo on her radar, my array flagging a bogey that wasn't there. Pull up. I radioed, voice steady despite the panic clawing my throat. She did, banking hard but too late. The sim turned hot. A stray drone from a rival exercise clipped her wing. Alarms blared as her jet limped back, smoke trailing like a wound. In the aftermath, Marcus pounced. In the debrief, he waved printouts. Tampered logs, my code altered to show false positives. Sabotage, he accused, eyes on Olivia. Your trainee here fed you bad data. Reckless. Dangerous. The room went still. Olivia's face drained of color, but she stood tall. Bullshit. Catherine's the best we've got. Best for what? Marcus sneered. Personal gain? I've got witnesses, late nights, inappropriate contact. This isn't just incompetence. It's a breach. I felt the blood roar in my ears. It's a lie. The logs. Enough. The commander, a grizzled admiral with a face like weathered oak, cut in. Investigation pending. Ruiz Hale, confined to quarters. That night, alone in my bunk, the walls closed in. Betrayal tasted like ash. Marcus had hacked my terminal's sloppy work, but enough to cast doubt. When Olivia slipped in hours later, her face was a mask of fury and fear. He set us up, I whispered, tears hot on my cheeks. To break us. She pulled me close, her embrace a lifeline. He won't. We'll fight this. Together. But Dawn brought the hammer. Brass called us separately. Olivia first, praised for her save but warned. Fraternization clouds judgment. End it or face transfer. Then me. Your position's compromised. Resignation recommended. For the good of the team. I crumpled the orders, storming to her hangar. She was prepping her jet, tools scattered like fallen stars. Olivia. Catherine. Her voice broke as she turned, grease-streaked and hollow-eyed. They offered me command if I distance myself. Said you're a liability. The world tilted. You said always. I know. She stepped close, hands cupping my face, thumbs brushing tears I hadn't realized were falling. But if I lose you to a dishonorable discharge. Choose me. The words clawed out raw. Or we're nothing. Her eyes shattered. I can't. Not like this. God, Catherine. I love you too much to ruin you. She walked away then back to her jet, leaving me in the echo of engines revving to life. Betrayal wasn't Marcus's alone. It was the system, the ranks, the world that demanded we choose duty over heart. Days bled into weeks. I tendered my notice, packing crates in the humid haze of a Spanish autumn. Olivia avoided me. Briefings by proxy, flights that kept her airborne and me earthbound. The base buzzed with her promotion. Marcus's smug ascent at her side for photo ops. Rumors twisted. Ruiz dumped the Omega. Smart move. But love doesn't die clean. One stormy night as rain lashed the cliffs, a knock shattered my solitude. Olivia soaked flight jacket dripping, eyes wild. I can't do it. The command, the lies, it's poison without you. We collided like thunder, her arms crushing me close, lips desperate on mine. Run with me, she gasped. Stateside. Civilian life. No more hiding. Yes, I breathed, the word a release. We planned in whispers. Her resignation drafted, my ticket to Kentucky rerouted via DC. A future modest ours. Then the real storm hit. The op was a shadow exercise. Night runs over the dark waters off Cadiz, testing stealth mods I jury-rigged from my bunk. Olivia volunteered, said it was routine. One last flight, she texted. A winking emoji that masked the ache. I paced the empty lab, screens dark, the base asleep under a canopy of bruised clouds. The call came at 0200, garbled, urgent. Mayday, engine fire ejecting. Her voice, strained but steady, cut off mid-breath. Then nothing. I bolted from the compound, rain slicking my coat, heart a war drum. The cliffs loomed, black against the lightning-veined sky, searchlights sweeping like accusatory fingers. Rescue choppers thrummed overhead, but I knew. The currents off Rhoda were merciless, pulling wreckage to the depths. Marcus was there, coordinating with that false calm. "Ruiz is tough," he said, spotting me in the crowd of techs. "She'll beat it." His pity was a knife. I shoved past, to the edge, scanning the foam for any sign. A chute, a beacon. Hours dragged. Dawn crept gray and unforgiving. Then a diver's signal, debris. No pilot. They pulled her jet from the shallows that afternoon, mangled but intact. Sabotage, the report whispered, fuel line tampered, logs pointing to me? No. Marcus. His access, his grudge. But proof? Buried under red tape. The Admiral called me in, face carved from regret. "Hail, you're cleared. Ruiz's last transmission, she named you. Cleared your name. But she's gone." Gone. The word hollowed me. I wandered the base like a ghost, Olivia's jacket, left in my locker, clutched like a talisman. It smelled of her. Fuel, citrus, the faint vanilla of my shampoo from stolen nights. Funeral was Bayside. A crisp affair under the Spanish oaks. Her flag-draped coffin, her squadron in dress blues, Marcus delivering the eulogy with crocodile tears. Olivia was the best of us, fearless, loyal. Lies. I stood at the rear, Omega inconspicuous, biting back sobs as they lowered her into Andalusian soil. Nights fractured after. I'd drive the coastal roads in her borrowed Jeep, windows down to the roar of surf, replaying her laugh, her touch. Rhoda's beauty turned cruel. Sunsets mocking our stolen ones, the air heavy with what-ifs. Why hadn't I fought harder? Begged her to ground the flight? A month in, the letter arrived, postmarked DC, but her handwriting jagged from the cockpit. No. Impossible. Mi cielo, if you're reading this, forgive the drama. I'm writing from a safe house, ejected clean, washed ashore in Morocco. Fuel sabotage, yeah. Marcus is doing. Brass knows, but they'll bury it for the optics. I couldn't risk you in the fallout. Go home, Catherine. Live bright for us both. I love you, always my sky. Alive. My knees buckled, laughter sobs racking me on the lab floor. She was alive, hiding, healing but breathing. The relief was tidal, crashing over grief's remnants. But betrayal lingered, sharp as shrapnel. She'd chosen silence over us, left me to mourn, to shatter. Was it protection or fear? I wired money through back channels anonymous for her escape. Then nothing. Weeks of radio silence, my text to burner numbers bouncing void. Winter gripped Rhoda, winds howling off the Atlantic like accusations. I threw myself into work, new trainee, same screens, but the data blurred with memories. Her hand on mine during that first glitch. Our promises on the beach, sand gritting between toes as we vowed forever. Marcus cornered me again, this time in the officers' club, a tumbler of scotch his shield. Heard about Ruiz. Tragic. His grin was a serpent's. You Omegas bounce back quick, huh? Always do. I met his gaze, Olivia's fire in my veins. Some scars run deep, Lieutenant. Deeper than yours. He laughed, but unease flickered. Good. Let him stew. Spring thawed the cliffs, wildflowers rioting in pinks and golds. I was packing for discharge, honorable with commendations for my arrays, when the Jeep's radio crackled with a DC bulletin. Former Lieutenant Olivia Ruiz, decorated pilot, cleared in sabotage probe. Colleague Lieutenant Marcus Hale facing charges. Vindication, bittersweet. But where was she? The answer came on a flawless June morning. I was at the observation deck, final shift, binoculars trained on a lone hornet slicing the horizon. It banked low, wings dipping in salute, then circled back, landing gear down, call sign on. My breath caught. The canopy popped, and there she was. Olivia, thinner, scarred anew across her collarbone, but whole. She strode across the tarmac, duffel slung over shoulder, eyes scanning until they locked on me. Catherine. The name was a lifeline. I ran ungainly, glasses fogging, crashing into her arms. She smelled of salt and survival, her hold fierce as ever. "You're here," I choked, pulling back to search her face. The lines around her eyes were deeper, but the spark? Undimmed. Couldn't stay away. Her smile trembled. "The probe broke him, Marcus. Brass offered me reinstatement, but I want out. With you. If you'll have me." The old hurt surged, nights of empty grief, the base's pity. "You left me to bury you. How do I trust?" "I know." Her voice cracked, hands framing my face like that first night. "I was scared. Of losing you to the machine, of dragging you down. But losing you? That broke me worse. Every dawn in that hellhole I saw your face. You're my north, Catherine. Without you I'm just drifting." Tears spilled, mingling with the sea spray. "I mourned us. But I never stopped loving you." She kissed me then, open, unashamed, the tarmac be damned. Whistles from ground crew faded. It was just us, two women reclaiming stolen sky. We left Rhoda that week, her honorable discharge, my scholarship calling me to a think tank in Virginia. No fanfare, just a quiet flight stateside. Hands laced across armrests, watching Spain shrink to a memory. Life reshaped itself, humanistic in its quiet grind. Olivia took to instruction. Sims for cadets. Her stories of near misses captivating without the adrenaline's edge. I consulted on drone tech, my Omega sensitivity, reframed as empathy and code. We bought a fixer-upper in Alexandria, creaky porch overlooking the Potomac, where sunsets rivaled Rhoda's without the ghosts. Betrayal's shadow lingered, in arguments over trust, in nightmares that woke us tangled and whispering. But we built on it. Therapy sessions in DC traffic, letters like the one that saved her, now framed on our mantle. Human, flawed, loving anyway. One evening, a year on, as fireflies danced over the river, Olivia pulled me to the porch swing. "Marry me?" she asked, ring simple silver etched with coordinates. "Our Rhoda Beach." I laughed through tears. "Yes. 1,000 times." Our wedding was small, backyard, under Virginia oaks, friends from the base toasting with cheap kava. No ranks, no hierarchies, just vows that echoed our first. Always. In the end, love wasn't the drama of jets and cliffs, it was this. The steady climb after the free fall. Human after all. Years folded like well-worn flight charts. Each crease a lesson etched deeper. By 30, Olivia had traded her helmet for a whistle, coaching aviation workshops at a community college near Quantico. Her laugh booming through hangars as she grounded dreams for wide-eyed kids, alphas and omegas alike. "The sky doesn't care about your label," she'd say, echoing the mantra we'd carved into our scars. "It only asks if you're willing to fall." I climbed too, my research gig evolving into a fellowship at MIT's Aero Lab. Telemetry that saved lives in civilian skies, drones ferrying meds to remote islands. No more bunkers, just sunlit offices overlooking the Charles, where I'd sketch equations on napkins, Olivia's ring glinting like a compass point. But peace, that American illusion, came laced with echoes. Marcus's trial-splashed tabloids. Guilty on tampering, dishonorably booted, his Texan empire crumbling to dust. We watched from our couch, her head on my shoulder, a shared silence heavier than cheers. "He almost took everything," she murmured. "He didn't." I kissed her temple. "We're the ones who flew." Yet the past clawed back in quiet ways. Olivia's nightmares, waves crashing, fuel igniting, woke us at odd hours, her body rigid until my voice pulled her shoreward. My own ghosts. The what-ifs of that Mayday, the letters' cold finality. We'd talk them out over dawn coffee, steam curling like unanswered prayers, rebuilding trust brick by humanistic brick. Rhoda called us back once, 5 years in, a joint memorial for lost pilots, brass inviting Olivia as keynote. We flew commercial, hands clasped through turbulence, landing in that familiar salt haze. The cliffs stood sentinel, softer in memory's blur, wild goats scampering like forgotten sentries. The ceremony was solemn. Wreaths on waves, a bugler's lament. Olivia spoke from the heart. No script, just truth. "I learned to fly chasing ghosts," she said, voice steady over the PA, eyes finding mine in the crowd. "My brothers. My own fears. But the real lesson? It's not the ascent that defines you. It's who catches you on the way down." Applause rippled, but for me it was her gaze. Unwavering, the same that had pinned me in the lab all those years ago. Afterward we walked the beach, our beach barefoot in the surf, the bass a distant hum. Think it was worth the wreckage? She asked, toes digging into wet sand. I laced our fingers, the rings engraving warm under my thumb. Every shard. Look what we built. She pulled me close, the tide nipping our ankles. Yeah. Back home life deepened roots. We adopted a rescue mutt. Scruffy terrier mix named Vega, after the star, and renovated the kitchen into a chaos of herbs and half-finished puzzles. Weekends meant hikes in Shenandoah, her leading with that alpha stride, me trailing with wildflower sketches. Evenings. Vinyl spinning Joan Baez, her voice twining with mine in off-key harmony. Conflict reared its head as it does, human frailty demanding its due. Olivia's restlessness hit mid-decade. A itch for the stick she'd grounded for good. What if I teach abroad? She broached one night, fork paused over paella. Spain again. For a semester. The old fracture twinged, abandonment's echo. Rota. Her face fell. No. Valencia. Safer skies. But, away from here. I set down my wine, heart a quiet storm. Am I holding you back? The life we chose? God, no. She reached across, urgent. You're my anchor. But I missed the rush. The teaching, it's kids dreaming big like we did. I want you there. With me. We talked for hours, raw edges bared. My fear of drifting apart, her guilt over the death that stranded me. Dawn found compromise, a sabbatical for us both, my remote work packing light. Valencia awaited. Orange groves and Gothic spires, a chapter unbound by ranks. The city embraced us. Olivia's classes buzzing with energy, my laptop humming from cafe tables overlooking the Turia Gardens. We rented a flat with balcony views of the sea, evenings melting into siestas and shared gelato, her laughter freer in the Mediterranean light. But drama shadowed even idols. A letter from Rhoda, anonymous, postmarked the base, slipped under our door one humid afternoon. Inside photos. Us in the hangar that first kiss night. Blurry damning. A note. Some secrets don't stay buried. Watch your back. Marcus. No, his sentence barred him from service. A disgruntled ex, perhaps, or the Academy's old guard. Allergic to our unapologetic union. Fear coiled, but so did resolve. We fight smart, Olivia said, crumpling the evidence, her jaw that familiar steel. Document. Report. And live louder. We did. I blogged anonymized tales, Omega and Arrow love across lines, drawing quiet allies from shadowed corners. Olivia dedicated a flight sim to the ones who ground us. Her students nodding. A few sharing their own hidden hearts. The threat fizzled. Cinder traced to a bitter mechanic, reprimanded, silenced. But it forged us sharper. Annual check-ins with a DC therapist, boundaries drawn like flight paths. Human growth inch by earned inch. By 40, we'd circled back to roots. Olivia heading a Virginia flight school for underserved kids. Alphas and omegas from rough patches like her San Juan streets. I consulted globally, my TED Talk on empathy and algorithms, going mildly viral, freckled face beaming beside her in the audience clip. Our love? Seasoned like good bourbon, smooth with a kick. Anniversaries marked with beach picnics, Vega chasing waves. Toast to the girl who'd hooked me with a graze. To free falls, she'd say. And safe landings, I'd counter. No grand tragedy, no fairy dust finale. Just us. Two women scarred and soaring. In a world that bent but never broke us. In America's sprawl, from Rhoda's cliffs to Potomac porches, we proved the human truth. Love isn't the avoiding of storms. It's dancing in them hand in unyielding hand. The end? There isn't one. Only horizons, endless as the sky she once owned.